My ex-wife married my billionaire CEO and got me fired. I lost my career, my home, everything. Enjoy being nobody, she texted. Delivering pizza at 50, I met an old man who stared at me. You're Jacob Grant's son, aren't you? He said, your father and I started a real estate company in 1982. He owns 60%. When he died, the shares went to you. He showed me the current value. What I saw made me collapse. 50 years old, a receding hairline, and a pizza bag for a briefcase. That's me. The rain was coming down in sheets, so thick it felt like God had upgraded to HD. My Honda Civic, which had the personality of a chain-smoking donkey, coughed, wheezed, and threatened to retire right there on the street. I slapped the dashboard like, come on, Betsy, one more delivery, and I'll get you synthetic oil this time. She didn't believe me. The wipers squeaked across the windshield like they were filing a noise complaint. My jacket smelled like a combination of old mozzarella and despair. That's not a cologne you can buy. That's something you earn. I checked the address again, 404 Westwood Drive. The kind of mansion that looked like it could file your taxes and still judge your income. Marble driveway, fountain shaped like some Greek god flexing, and the kind of front door that probably had a security system smarter than me. I stood there holding a large pepperoni in one hand and my dignity in the other, trying not to look like a middle-aged crime suspect. Then the door opened, and standing there was this old man. Late 70s, crisp sweater, eyes sharp like he'd seen too many seasons of life, and still wasn't impressed. Before I could even say, pizza for Drummond, the guy's face went white. Like ghost sees ghost white. You're Jacob Grant's boy, he stammered, clutching the doorframe like he'd just seen Elvis rise from the dead and order extra cheese. Now, I'm used to customers saying weird things. I've had people open doors wearing nothing but regret, people asking if I could just step inside for 1 second, while they found their wallet. Translation, they didn't have one. But this guy? He looked like he'd just seen a walking time machine. Sir, I said, carefully balancing the pizza box, if you're having a stroke, blink twice. He didn't blink. He just stared harder. Jacob Grant, your father. My God, you have his eyes. I blinked. You sure? Last time I checked, I got my eyes from losing sleep and car payments. He ignored that, waving me inside like he was about to perform an exorcism. Come in, before you catch your death out there. Now, every horror movie starts like this. Lonely mansion, storm outside, friendly old man with too much information. But hey, the smell of money is a hell of an air freshener. So I stepped inside, leaving Betsy and my pride in the rain. The living room looked like the Smithsonian had mated with a trust fund. Paintings older than my credit score, glass cases holding what looked like antique pens, and a Persian rug so soft, I felt guilty stepping on it with my $40 sneakers. The pizza steamed in my hands, trying to remind me why I was there. He pointed to a photo on the wall. 2 men, shaking hands in front of a half-built structure. That's your father, he said. And there he was. Jacob Grant, the man I barely remembered. Died when I was 12. Always smelled like sawdust and coffee. He'd built houses, or so I thought. Apparently, that wasn't the half of it. Sir, I started. I don't mean to be rude, but... He cut me off. You don't know, do you? That's the line people say right before your life does a 180. Know what? I asked, trying not to drop the pizza because that's a $12 tip waiting to happen. He shuffled over to an oak cabinet, pulled out a leather folder thicker than the Bible, and set it on the coffee table with a dramatic thud. Your father and I co-founded a real estate firm in 1982. Grant Drummond Developments. We built the first structures in the Westwood district. But when Jacob died, everything changed. Wait, I said, hands up. You're saying my dad owned a company? Because I grew up eating cereal for dinner. He nodded solemnly. Yes, he owns 60%. I managed the rest until, well, I thought it was gone. But it's not. It's grown. Exponentially. He slid the folder toward me like it contained the secrets of the universe. My fingers hesitated over the clasp, the way you do when you're about to open something that could either fix your life or set it on fire. Inside were decades of contracts, bank statements, and letters addressed to Jacob Grant, co-founder. My father's name was everywhere, embossed, signed, printed. It was like finding out your dad had been Bruce Wayne and just forgot to mention it. And then came the kicker, a valuation sheet from a real estate attorney. Grant Drummond Development's current estimated worth, $900 million. $900 million. With a capital M. I laughed. Out loud. Like a lunatic. You're kidding, I said. You're absolutely kidding. This is some kind of mix-up, right? I deliver pizza. My car needs duct tape therapy. My landlord sends me passive-aggressive reminders about rent. You're telling me I own part of a billion-dollar company. He smiled, the kind of gentle, nostalgic smile that makes you uncomfortable. You don't own part of it, son. You own 60%. Your father never sold. He kept your name in the will. You're the heir. Now, I've had some wild nights in my life. My wedding reception, my divorce signing, the time a customer tipped me in scratch-offs, but nothing compared to that moment. My brain was buffering. My soul hit blue screen. My legs gave out faster than my marriage. I mumbled something like, that's impossible, before gravity decided I'd had enough disbelief for one evening. Next thing I knew, I was face first on his Persian rug. Not my proudest moment. Somewhere in the distance, I heard him shouting, "Oh, dear Lord. He's fainted." Which, honestly, fair. When I came to, I was on his couch with a glass of water, a damp cloth on my forehead, and the old man looking at me like he'd just rebooted my existence. "You okay there, son?" he asked. I think my brain just overdosed on plot twists. I croaked. "You telling me my dad left me a company, and I've been delivering pizzas to survive?" He chuckled softly. Life's funny that way. Sometimes it hides gold under the grease. I sipped my water, processing. So let me get this straight. For 50 years, I've been living paycheck to paycheck, scraping for tips, and my dad had a whole real estate empire sitting in a time capsule. Essentially, yes. Well, damn. That explains the confidence I never inherited. He laughed, really laughed, and for a second I saw the decades melt off him. Your father would have loved that. He always had your sense of humor. We talked for hours. About Dad. About the company. About how after his death, things got messy. Legal confusion, lost records, partners walking away. Walter Drummond, this old man in front of me, had tried to find me for years, but the trail went cold when my mom remarried and we moved states. So what now? I asked finally, half afraid of the answer. Now, he said, eyes twinkling, we make things right. The company is still active. The assets still exist. You're the rightful majority owner. But to claim it, we'll need to bring in a lawyer. And some courage. Lawyer I can find, I said. Courage? Might need to rent that. He smiled again, tapping the folder. You're Jacob's son. You've already got it. I looked at that folder like it was Pandora's box, and maybe it was. Except instead of curses, it held stock certificates, property deeds, and a second chance. My whole life, I thought I was destined to die anonymous. A middle-aged guy smelling like pepperoni and unpaid bills. But maybe, just maybe, the universe was finally done laughing at me and ready to laugh with me. When I finally left that mansion, rain had slowed to a drizzle. I stood under the porch light holding the folder against my chest. My reflection in the glass door looked the same. Same tired eyes, same pizza hat, same debt-level soul. But something inside had shifted. I walked back to my Civic, which groaned like it resented my newfound optimism. Relax, I told it. If this turns out real, you're getting a full tank and a retirement plan. As I pulled away, the wipers squealed across the glass, the streetlights shimmered on the wet pavement, and my heart pounded in that strange rhythm that only happens when the impossible starts feeling possible. $900 million. My father's legacy. My second act. I didn't know it yet, but that night, that ridiculous, rain-soaked, pizza-scented night, had just cracked open the vault of everything I never knew I'd lost. And somewhere between the sound of rain and the smell of mozzarella, I swear I heard my dad's voice say, "Took you long enough, kid." 6 months earlier, I was somebody. Not like a celebrity somebody. Nobody was screaming my name or asking for selfies. But I was the kind of somebody who had a company parking spot with my name on it and a stapler I actually owned. Senior logistics manager at Harlow Dynamics. 23 years of showing up early, eating lunch at my desk, and pretending to care about team-building PowerPoints. I had a house with a lawn that only slightly resembled a depression haircut, a fridge that mostly worked, and a Keurig that felt like a luxury. Yeah, I thought I was doing okay, until that night when my dignity got buried under a chandelier. The company's annual gala was a spectacle. It was held at the Hyatt Ballroom, The kind of place where the napkins had more starch than my shirt. Everyone was there, executives, investors, even the interns pretending to network. I showed up in my one good suit, navy blue, freshly dry cleaned, smelling faintly of cologne and optimism. I figured I'd grab a couple of free cocktails, maybe shake Victor Harlow's hand, and pretend we were all part of one big happy corporate family. Spoiler, we weren't. I'd barely gotten through my first glass of champagne when the room went quiet. That awkward kind of quiet, like when your mom walks in mid-argument and everyone suddenly remembers manners. The spotlight swung toward the entrance, and there she was, Monica, my ex-wife. The woman who once told me I lacked ambition while she watched Shark Tank in pajama pants. And she wasn't alone. On her arm was none other than Victor Harlow himself, my billionaire boss, the silver-haired devil who made motivational speeches that felt like hostage negotiations. The man owned half the state, 3 jets, and apparently, now my ex-wife. I stood there holding my drink like a hostage negotiator trying to decide whether to surrender or throw the glass. My coworker Carl leaned in and whispered, "Dude, is that?" "Yup," I said, forcing a smile so tight it could have cracked concrete. They walked in like royalty. Victor in his tailored tux, Monica in a red dress so dramatic it probably came with a warning label. The whole room turned into an audience at a soap opera finale. Victor saw me first. His grin could have powered a small town. "Elliot," he said, loud enough for the back row. "Good to see you. I want you to meet someone." And then came the line that deserved its own gravestone. "This is my fiancée, Monica." Fiancée. The word hit me like a folding chair in slow motion. I nearly choked on my champagne shrimp. My throat made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a dying squirrel. I looked at her. She smiled that smug, I won the lottery smile. And I thought, is this real life or a deleted scene from a bad telenovela? I managed to say, small world, because sarcasm is my only coping mechanism. She purred back, smaller paycheck. The crowd laughed nervously. Even the DJ looked like he wanted to play a funeral march. My team suddenly discovered the urgent need to check their phones or examine the ceiling tiles. It was like a collective group of witnesses pretending they hadn't seen a crime. Victor clinked his glass. "To new beginnings," he announced. Everyone clapped. I just stood there thinking, buddy, one of us is about to have an ending instead. After that, the night was a blur. Every conversation felt like a job interview I didn't apply for. People kept giving me that look, the pity mixed with curiosity, like I was an exhibit called The Man Who Lost Everything Except His Badge. Monica floated around the room like she owned it, introducing Victor to people who used to be our friends. She even winked at me once, the kind of wink that says, "You're watching history, baby." By dessert, my internal monologue had turned into a Quentin Tarantino script. I left early, citing a headache, which was true, caused by heartbreak and secondhand champagne fumes. I drove home with the radio off, just me and the sound of my dignity dying quietly in the passenger seat. The next morning, I woke up with a hangover of humiliation. Social media didn't help. My feed was flooded with photos from the gala, Victor and Monica posing like prom royalty, hashtag power couple goals. My friends texted "You okay?" which, if you're wondering, is code for "we can't believe she downgraded ethically but upgraded financially." At work, it got worse. Whispers followed me like bad cologne. Every time I walked into the break room, conversations died faster than my 401k in 2008. Carl tried to lighten the mood. "Hey, at least your ex traded up to a CEO. Mine left me for a guy who sells vape pens." "Congrats," I said. "At least yours doesn't sign your paychecks." I buried myself in work. I figured if I could just focus, maybe people would forget. But corporate America loves drama more than profit. HR even scheduled a confidential wellness check. Translation: we just want to make sure you're not planning to torch the building. Things stabilized for a bit. I focused on shipping schedules and quarterly reports. I convinced myself I was over it. That lasted about 3 weeks. Then the email came. Subject: Team Restructure Announcement. From Victor Harlow. Body: effective immediately, logistics and distribution will report directly to the executive office. Please join me in welcoming Monica Harlow as senior advisor. I stared at the screen, reread the name, and whispered, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." Carl poked his head over the cubicle wall. "Is that?" "Yep, I said. He winced. Want me to fake a fire drill? I appreciated the loyalty, but there's no escaping hell when it gets your email address. A week later, Monica waltzed into my department like she'd invented the concept of leadership. She wore a blazer that probably cost more than my mortgage and heels that could double as weapons. Team, she said, I'm here to optimize efficiency. I thought, yeah, you optimized my marriage first. She smiled directly at me. Elliot, long time. How are you settling in? Like asbestos, I said under my breath. She blinked. Sorry, I said, doing great. Every meeting after that was a circus. She'd toss around buzzwords like synergy and workflow cohesion, while I sat there fantasizing about moving to Alaska. Victor occasionally popped in, pretending he wasn't staging the world's most uncomfortable threesome, CEO, ex-wife, ex-husband. Then came the gala sequel, our quarterly earnings meeting, where Victor announced record profits. He thanked Monica for her strategic insights, which was code for, I like her taste in yachts. Everyone clapped. I did too, because survival instinct is powerful. After the meeting, she cornered me near the elevators. Still mad? She asked sweetly. Mad? I said. No. I just hope your prenup has a loyalty program. Her smile faltered for half a second, then came back sharper. You always were funny, Elliot. Too bad humor doesn't pay the bills. Yeah, I said. Guess that's why I stayed married to you for so long. Elevator doors closed before she could reply. I counted that as my one win of the week. But karma's got a sense of humor. Because exactly 7 days later, HR called. Elliot, can you come in for a quick chat? Now, quick chat in HR language translates to pack up your stapler. I walked in, trying to look confident. The HR manager, a woman named Linda with empathy powered by caffeine and scripts, gestured for me to sit. We've noticed discrepancies, she began. Inventory losses totaling $2 million. All traced to your authorization codes. I laughed. Out loud. You think I stole $2 million in brake rotors and forklifts? Lady, I can barely afford a second Netflix account. But she wasn't smiling. She slid a stack of papers across the table. Invoices, digital signatures, my name everywhere. These are your credentials, she said gently, like she was talking to a toddler with a fork near an outlet. The cameras? I asked. Malfunctioned, she said. Of course they did. Cameras always malfunction when the plot thickens. Next thing I know, I'm being escorted out like I tried to sell state secrets. My ID badge was deactivated so fast it beeped in protest. My coworkers watched from their desks, eyes wide, pretending they weren't recording the moment for group chat entertainment. Victor called that evening. Elliot, he said, in that fake friendly CEO tone, let's handle this quietly. I'll let you resign. No need for scandal. Generous, I said. You're offering me the privilege of pretending I didn't get screwed over? Consider it a gift, he said. I almost said, I already got your last gift. Her name's Monica. But I bit my tongue. Go to hell, Victor. He sighed. I was afraid you'd say that. Click. That's when it hit me. I'd lost everything. My job, my reputation, and the last shred of self-respect I'd managed to keep after the Monica fiasco. That night, I sat in my kitchen, staring at my Keurig like it had betrayed me too. The coffee tasted like irony. I updated my LinkedIn bio to currently seeking opportunities anywhere. My mother called the next day. She always had perfect timing for disasters. Elliot, she said, sometimes the universe slaps you so hard it resets your Wi-Fi. Thanks, Mom, I said. Should I check my signal strength? She sighed. You'll land on your feet. You always do. Just maybe not in a pizza shop this time. I laughed bitterly. Sure, Mom. Because destiny totally takes suggestions. And just like that, my 23-year climb up the corporate ladder ended with a pink slip, an ex-wife with a diamond the size of guilt, and a boss who thought justice was optional. But life has a funny way of circling back. 6 months later, I'd be holding a pizza box and $1 billion secret in my grease-stained hands. I just didn't know it yet. You ever notice how life doesn't just knock you down? It sets up a full presentation about why you deserved it? Yeah, that was my life after Harlow Dynamics. 1 week, I was senior logistics manager, core team member, with a parking spot and a drawer full of highlighters. The next, I was unemployed, single, and eating cereal out of a salad bowl because the dishes were too emotionally triggering. When HR called me in, I already knew something was off. Linda, the HR manager, Looked like someone who'd rehearsed bad news in front of a mirror. "Elliot," she said with that artificial calm. "Can you come in for a quick chat?" "Quick chat my ass. That's corporate for bring a box." I walked in anyway, still pretending this was going to be about restructuring or growth opportunities. Spoiler, it was about neither. She gestured for me to sit, then slid a folder across the table with the delicacy of a bomb technician. "We found discrepancies," she began. "Inventory losses totaling $2 million. I laughed, which, apparently, was the wrong response. "Linda, if I'd stolen $2 million, do you think I'd still be driving a Civic with one working window and a Bluetooth speaker held together by duct tape?" She didn't even blink. "The documents have your signature and login. We have to follow procedure." "Procedure?" I once followed procedure so tightly I color-coded my panic attacks. She looked uncomfortable. "Victor said it's best for everyone if you resign quietly." Oh, of course Victor said that. Victor Harlow, the man who thought ethics was a type of car insurance. I pictured him sitting in his glass office, sipping overpriced espresso with Monica whispering poison in his ear. My ex-wife turned home decor into corporate espionage. "Resign quietly," I repeated. "That's rich, considering I can't even afford noise-canceling headphones." She gave me that HR pity look, the one that says, "We're sorry you caught feelings, but we have to feed the corporate gods." That afternoon, I packed my desk. My coworkers avoided eye contact like I'd turned radioactive. Carl tried to fist bump me, but ended up offering a handshake midair, so it looked like we were negotiating peace. My nameplate came off like a funeral plaque. I walked out with a cardboard box full of regrets, a novelty mug that said Logistics Legend, and my dignity, barely. Victor called that night. Because of course he did. "Elliot," he said smoothly, "I'm giving you a chance to leave with grace." "I'm out of grace," I said. "Monica took that in the divorce." He chuckled like a Bond villain. "You'll thank me later. Some bridges are meant to burn." "Yeah," I said. "You're standing on one." He hung up before I could add, "And you're wearing gasoline cologne." So there I was, unemployed, humiliated, and broke. My friends offered sympathy and beer, which helped until the beer ran out. My mom offered prayers and casserole, which did not help. And my bank account offered silence. I tried job hunting. Turns out, former logistics manager accused of fraud doesn't look great on a resume. Interviews went downhill fast. One guy said, "We need someone reliable." I said, "I'm so reliable I once organized my sock drawer by season." He didn't laugh. I tried freelancing. Turns out, there's not a high demand for motivational speeches titled, "How to Lose Your Job and Still Pay Rent." By month 2, I was behind on bills, eating tuna straight from the can, and contemplating selling my Keurig for gas money. I even applied to drive for a rideshare company. The app politely informed me my car did not meet minimum standards. I stared at Betsy, the Civic, and said, "You hear that? Even Uber thinks you're trash." She blinked her check engine light in solidarity. Then, one night, I stumbled into Luigi's Pizza. It was a tiny shop tucked between a vape store and a nail salon, with a flickering sign that said "Best Slice in Town." The smell hit me first: garlic, dough, and faint disappointment. Luigi himself stood behind the counter, a stocky guy with arms like breadsticks dipped in testosterone. His accent was thick, somewhere between Brooklyn and pure chaos. "You look hungry," he said, eyeing me. "Hungry, unemployed, and mildly dead inside," I replied. He grinned. "Good. You drive fast." "I drove my marriage off a cliff," I said. "Does that count?" He laughed so hard he slapped the counter. "You're hired." Just like that, I became a pizza delivery guy. 50 years old, bachelor's degree, 23 years in logistics, and I was now responsible for transporting hot cheese across suburbia. It was humbling, sure, but also oddly peaceful. There's no corporate drama in pizza. No backstabbing. No circle back on that. Just pepperoni, addresses, and tips. Of course, the universe wasn't done mocking me. My first delivery? The condo complex where Monica used to live. I pulled up, hands shaking slightly. The receipt said Harlow, penthouse. I almost dropped the box. I considered driving away, faking a car crash, joining a monastery, but the job paid $8 an hour plus tips, so I went up. When she opened the door, her eyes went wide. "Elliot." I smiled the smile of a man who's emotionally bankrupt. "Extra cheese. No loyalty." She stammered. I didn't know you. Delivered happiness for a living? Yeah, it's new. Want me to leave it by your conscience or your husband's desk? She didn't even tip. Typical. Back at Luigi's, I told him the story. He wiped tears from his eyes laughing. You, my friend, are living sitcom. Yeah, I said. Except no laugh track, just overdraft fees. The weeks passed. I got good at the job, real good. I memorized streets, shortcuts, even the regulars' weird requests. One lady always asked for a smile with the delivery. One guy tipped me in Bitcoin. Another invited me in to discuss energy frequencies for 45 minutes. Delivering pizza is like social anthropology with extra carbs. Still, every night driving home, I felt the weight of failure. My reflection in the rearview looked like a man who'd missed his stop in life. I'd scroll job listings at red lights, half hoping, half dreading. One rainy night, I pulled into a gas station to refuel Betsy's dying soul. That's when I saw Carl, my old coworker. He was wearing a new suit, laughing into his phone, looking like success in human form. He spotted me and froze. Elliot? Man, what are you doing here? Refueling my empire, I said, holding a Red Bull. He looked at the pizza sign on my car and said the one thing you never say to someone barely holding it together. Wow, career change? Yeah, I said, forcing a grin. Commute's shorter, tips are better, and my new boss doesn't sleep with my ex-wife. He blinked. Touché. Then he left. I watched him drive away in a Tesla, and my car coughed in protest. That night, I sat in the driver's seat a long time, rain tapping on the windshield, my breath fogging up the glass. I thought about Dad, Jacob Grant. He died when I was 12. Builder, dreamer, the kind of man who could fix anything except maybe our family's luck. I wondered what he'd think of me now. Probably tell me to keep going, that every man's rock bottom is just a different floor. So I kept delivering, day by day, slice by slice. Then came the storm. It was late December, the kind of night that feels haunted. Rain was coming down sideways, thunder rolling like bowling balls across the sky. Luigi had one last delivery, a mansion on Westwood Drive. Big order. You take this one, he said. Good tips from rich people. Maybe they throw in pity bonus. I laughed. Luigi, I don't think anyone's tipping a middle-aged guy in a Civic Extra for weather endurance. He shrugged. Maybe they like sympathy. I loaded up and drove through puddles deep enough to host fish. By the time I got there, my jacket was soaked, my hair plastered, my soul damp. I rang the bell. And that's when it happened. The old man opened the door, saw me, and gasped like he'd seen a ghost. You're Jacob Grant's boy. Me? Sir, if you're having a stroke, blink twice. That's how it started. A random pizza delivery on a rainy night. A stranger with too much history and too little warning. That was the night that changed everything. The night the pizza box opened Pandora's vault. But back then, standing on that marble doorstep, smelling like rain and garlic knots, I didn't know it yet. I was just a tired man with a box of pepperoni and a past I didn't know I'd inherited. Losing everything changes your menu real fast. One day you're eating sushi rolls with coworkers who pretend to like you, and the next, you're debating whether ketchup counts as a vegetable. They say rock bottom builds character. Nah, it just wrecks your metabolism. When I first lost my job, I still had dignity leftovers. I'd go to my favorite deli and order the usual, acting like my credit card wasn't sweating in my wallet. But after a few overdraft fees and one particularly aggressive payment declined, beep, I retired from fine dining and joined the gas station food club. Its exclusive membership fee is shame, and the dress code is despair. Breakfast became black coffee and existential dread. Lunch, whatever was 2 for 1 near the register. Dinner? Depends on the expiration date. I called it the gourmet misery diet. Guaranteed to slim your wallet and your will to live. Luigi's Pizza saved me from total collapse. I'd stumbled into that place like a man on autopilot. My life's GPS was permanently stuck on recalculating. Luigi didn't ask for a resume or references, just if I could drive and not die doing it. You drive fast, he'd said, squinting at me like a mob boss evaluating a getaway driver. I drove my marriage off a cliff, I told him. Does that count? He slapped the counter, laughed like a man who'd seen too many bad decisions, and said, You start tonight. So I did. Delivering pizza wasn't glamorous, but it kept my hands busy and my brain from replaying every stupid life choice I'd made. I became the Picasso of pizza delivery. I knew every shortcut, every grumpy doorman, every customer who tipped in change and guilt. There was Rick, the guy who ordered the same meat lovers special every Friday and tipped exactly $2, because that's how my daddy did it. There was Jen, the yoga instructor who claimed carbs were evil but still ordered extra garlic knots for her roommate. And then there was Kyle, my personal favorite, a high school kid who ordered a medium pepperoni and asked me life advice like I was a low-budget Yoda. "Mr. Grant," he'd say, "is love real?" "Kid," I'd reply. "If it is, it sure doesn't pay rent." But I liked the kid. Reminded me of myself before life turned into a slapstick tragedy. Still, some nights hit different. I'd park the Civic outside a mansion, see some happy couple answering the door, the warm lights spilling out like life was fair, and I'd feel it. That ache. The one that whispers, "This should have been you." Then I'd drive away, blasting 80s rock like I was trying to drown out my own thoughts. Then came the night. Rain again. The kind of rain that makes you question your life choices. I was soaked, cold, and on my fifth delivery. Luigi yelled over the sound of thunder. "Last one. Big house, rich guy, nice tip." Music to my broke ears. I pulled up to a mansion on Westwood Drive, the kind of place that makes your car feel like it needs a shower. I trudged to the front door, balancing the pizza and praying my hair didn't look as unemployed as I felt. I rang the bell. An old man opened the door. Gray hair, expensive sweater, eyes sharper than my bank overdraft notice. He took one look at me and gasped. "You're Jacob Grant's boy," he said, like he'd just seen a ghost. "Sir, if you're having a stroke, blink twice," I said automatically. He didn't blink. He just looked at me, trembling. "Your father." "Jacob." He was my partner. My father? Partner? My brain couldn't keep up. Partner in what? A secret garage band. He laughed, though it sounded more like a cough wrapped in nostalgia. No. In business. Real estate. We built half this city. I blinked. "You sure you got the right Grant?" "My dad built things." "Yeah, mostly IKEA furniture and unrealistic expectations." He waved me inside. The house looked like a museum that hired a decorator addicted to mahogany. The air smelled like money and dust. "You have his eyes," he said softly, pulling out a leather folder. "He'd be proud of you." I didn't know whether to laugh or ask for hazard pay. Proud. The man didn't even know I was out here delivering pizza to mansions that used to have his blueprints. Then he laid it all out. Jacob Grant, my father, wasn't just a construction worker. He co-founded Grant Drummond Developments in 1982, owned 60%. But after his death, everything got lost in paperwork, confusion, and greed. I thought he was crazy, until he showed me proof. Contracts, bank statements, my dad's signature, clear as day. And then, the kicker, a property valuation that nearly made my brain shut down. $900 million. $900 million. I don't remember much after that, except the sound of my dignity fainting. My knees gave up like they'd been waiting for this exact moment. I woke up on a Persian rug with a glass of water in my hand and the old man hovering over me like a worried doctor. "Easy there, son," he said. "Big news to process." "You think?" I croaked. "You just told me my dad was Scrooge McDuck and forgot to leave a map." He chuckled. "Your father was brilliant but modest. He never cared about the money. He cared about the land. The people." I sat up slowly. "Well, I care about both. Especially the money." He smiled. "You sound like him, just a bit more cynical." "Yeah, well, cynicism's cheaper than therapy." We talked for hours. About my dad, about the company, about how life had twisted what used to be honest work into corporate greed. The man's name was Walter Drummond. He'd been my dad's business partner, now retired and haunted by the past. "After your father died," he said, "the company fell apart. But the assets? Still there. The land you're standing on, your family owns it. 60%, to be exact. That number again. 60%. My dad's silent majority share in a corporation I never knew existed." Walter leaned back. "You could claim it. All of it. But it won't be easy. You'll need a lawyer. Someone who knows how to fight people who've been rich too long." "Walter," I said, "I deliver pizza for a living. My lawyer right now is Google." He laughed so hard I thought he'd break a hip. "Then let's fix that." He scribbled a name on a card and slid it over. "Patricia Norwood. She's ruthless. Smart. Doesn't blink at billionaires." I pocketed the card. You sure she takes clients who still use coupons? He winked. She will for you. When I finally left, rain had slowed to a mist. I stood on the porch, soaked but weirdly alive. My Civic sat there looking offended, like, you sure you belong here, buddy? I got in, started the engine, and just sat. $900 million. My father's legacy. My second chance hiding behind a pizza box. I laughed out loud. Not the haha kind. The unhinged kind. Of course, I muttered. My big break comes with mozzarella. Driving back, I thought about all the years I'd spent chasing validation from people who saw me as replaceable. I thought about Victor and Monica, how they'd smiled while stabbing me in the back. And I thought about my dad, who apparently built empires while I built excuses. Maybe this was it. The twist. The universe's weird apology letter. When I got to Luigi's, he was wiping down counters and humming Sinatra. You look like you saw a ghost, he said. Close, I replied. I saw my inheritance. He squinted. How big? Let's just say if I tip you, it'll pay off your mortgage. He grinned. Then maybe you buy better car, eh? Betsy and I have history, I said. But yeah, she's about to get some upgrades. I didn't tell him everything. Not yet. It sounded too crazy. Who'd believe the broke pizza guy just inherited a $900 million empire? I barely believed it myself. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the old man's words echoing in my head. You're Jacob's son. You have his courage. Yeah, Dad. I whispered into the dark. Guess it's my turn to build something. I didn't know then how messy it would get. How revenge would come wrapped in legal briefs and corporate seals. How Victor's empire sat right on top of my land. But at that moment, lying in my cheap apartment smelling faintly of pepperoni and purpose, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. And maybe hunger. Because, full confession, the gourmet misery diet doesn't include dinner breaks. There are hangovers, and then there's the kind you get when you realize you're worth more than every Powerball winner in your zip code. It's not the kind of hangover Advil can fix. It's the dizzy, heart-rattling. Is this a prank? Kind that makes you check your pulse and your bank app every 5 minutes. That morning after the mansion revelation, I woke up in my apartment, surrounded by pizza boxes and destiny. The folder Walter had given me sat on the coffee table like a glowing suitcase from Pulp Fiction. I hadn't slept. I just kept staring at those numbers. 900 million. My brain couldn't process it. It was like trying to imagine infinity or my ex-wife being humble. I brewed instant coffee because irony pairs well with caffeine and tried to talk myself down. Okay, Elliot, I said out loud, pacing the room in my socks. You are either about to be rich or about to join a pyramid scheme for ghosts. Betsy, my car, sat outside like a loyal dog that hadn't been fed in months. I promised her leather seats and premium gas if this turned out real. She didn't answer, probably too emotional. By noon, I'd showered, shaved, and put on my best, not a scam victim outfit. A button-up shirt that hadn't seen daylight since my firing and jeans without pizza grease. I drove back to Walter's mansion, windshield wipers squeaking like a stressed violin. When I got there, he greeted me like I was family he'd just found on Ancestry.com. Elliot, come in. You look better. Less confused. Oh, still confused, I said. Just wearing cleaner confusion. He laughed and led me into his library, a room that smelled like oak and old money. On the table was coffee, pastries, and enough paperwork to wallpaper a mansion. You ready to meet the lawyer? He asked. Define ready. She's already on her way. 5 minutes later, the door opened and in walked Patricia Norwood, late 40s, power suit, eyes like freshly sharpened knives. She didn't shake hands. She assessed you, like a surgeon deciding where to cut first. So, she said, flipping open her laptop, you're the son of Jacob Grant. That's what the DNA and the unpaid child support letters say, yeah. She smirked. I like you already. Patricia got straight to it. She'd spent the night digging through legal archives like Indiana Jones with a law degree. Your father's 60% stake in Grant Drummond Developments was never sold or dissolved, she explained. It was simply forgotten. Forgotten? I said. You forget birthdays, not empires. She slid a document toward me. Legally, the company still exists. The city's Westwood Tech Corridor, every office, lab, cafe, and overpriced salad shop sits on property leased under the Grant Drummond name. Walter leaned back proudly. 30 years of rent payments funneled into a holding account. I nearly choked on my coffee. How much are we talking? Patricia turned her laptop around. As of last quarter, $902 million. I stared. Is there a defibrillator in this mansion, or should I just faint on the good rug again? Walter chuckled. I'll have the maid fetch a pillow. Patricia continued, all business. Here's where it gets interesting. One of those tenants is Harlow Dynamics. I froze. Wait, Victor Harlow Dynamics. The very same, she said. According to the lease, they're in violation of the morality clause due to documented corporate misconduct. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled the coffee. You're telling me my ex-boss built his empire on my land? That's poetic. Shakespeare would have cried. Patricia smiled thinly. You can legally evict them or renegotiate rent at whatever number you choose. I leaned back, dizzy with the sheer beauty of karma. I think I just heard the universe slow clap. Walter patted my shoulder. Son, this is your chance to set things right. For your father and yourself. Patricia tapped the screen again. We'll need to file ownership claims, verify the inheritance, and notify all current tenants. But before we proceed, I suggest we make things airtight. You'll need protection. Protection? Financial, she said. Once this goes public, everyone will want a piece, including people who don't deserve crumbs. You mean Monica? I said automatically. She raised an eyebrow. The ex-wife. The ex-parasite, I corrected. Yeah, she'll show up faster than a coupon code. Patricia nodded. Then we'll make sure she can't. We spent hours drafting documents. I signed more papers than when I bought my house, car, and divorce combined. Walter kept bringing tea, smiling like a proud grandparent. I couldn't stop thinking about my dad, how he must have poured his life into this, only for it to vanish under dust and bad timing. At one point, Walter said softly, he'd be proud of you, Elliot. You have his spark. Thanks, I said, trying not to tear up. I just wish he'd left a roadmap instead of a mystery box. He left you something better, Walter said. A chance to rebuild. By evening, Patricia shut her laptop with a decisive snap. Congratulations, Mr. Grant. As of 5:42 p.m., you are the legal majority owner of Grant Drummond Developments. I sat there stunned. So what do I do now? She smirked. Whatever you want. But if it were me, I'd start with revenge and real estate. Walter laughed. Same order I was thinking. Driving home that night felt surreal. Streetlights shimmered off the rain-slick roads, and for once, Betsy's engine purred instead of coughed. I stopped at a red light, staring at my reflection in the windshield. I didn't look rich yet, still had pizza sauce on my sleeve, but something in my eyes had changed. Purpose. My phone buzzed. It was Luigi. Elliot, you forget to clock out. You owe me 20 minutes of labor. Keep it, I said, grinning. Consider it my first donation. Donation? You rob a bank. Better. I inherited one. He laughed. Ah, you joking again? Sure, I said. Let's go with that. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of cheap whiskey and toasted the ceiling. To Jacob Grant, the man who built dreams and forgot to leave a receipt. The next morning, Patricia called with updates. I've scheduled a meeting with Harlow Dynamics legal team for Monday. We're not telling them you're the new landlord until we're in the room. Surprise eviction party, I said. I like it. Also, she added, we found a dormant trust your father created. It's in your name. Balance, 22 million. I nearly dropped the phone. Patricia, stop adding zeros before I pass out. Consider it your startup capital, she said. We'll move the assets into a holding company to keep vultures away. I hung up, stared at my reflection in the toaster, and said, you, sir, are officially a comeback story. But before I could bask too long, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Hello. Elliot? It's Monica. Of course it was. The ghost of bad decisions passed. Wow, I said. I didn't realize they gave phones in the seventh circle of hell. She sighed. Can we talk? It's important. You mean besides the part where you married my boss and helped frame me for theft? Victor's not who I thought he was, she said. Things fell apart. I laughed. Shocking. Turns out money can't buy loyalty. Someone alert Forbes. Please, she said quietly. I made mistakes. Yeah, well, I made pizza, I said. We all cope differently. Then I hung up. I won't lie, it felt amazing. Years of humiliation erased with one click. By Sunday night, Patricia had emailed me a polished briefing for Monday's showdown at Harlow Dynamics. Walter insisted on coming along. You'll need moral support, he said. Moral or comic relief? Both, he said, smiling. I barely slept. I kept picturing Victor's face when he realized his empire stood on my father's land. Karma had finally decided to show up. Late, but stylish. Monday morning, I put on my best suit, the one that still smelled faintly of marinara and regret, and looked in the mirror. You're not a delivery guy today, I told myself. You're the landlord. At the office, Patricia greeted me with coffee and confidence. Walter wore a tweed jacket and looked like he'd come to enjoy the chaos. You ready? Patricia asked. Born ready, I said, or at least reheated. We rode the elevator up to Harlow's executive floor. My heart was pounding, but in a good way, the kind of adrenaline rush that comes right before justice gets served hot and extra cheesy. When the doors opened, Victor's assistant froze mid-sentence. Mr. Grant, she said, confused. Yeah, I said. Tell Victor his landlord's here. And with that, we walked in. 3 people, 1 destiny, and 900 million reasons to smile. I swear, somewhere in the distance, I could almost hear my dad laughing. Revenge, I discovered, smells like lemon polish and corporate panic. It doesn't come with fireworks or slow-motion walkaways. It comes stapled, notarized, and printed on letterhead thicker than the walls Victor Harlow liked to hide behind. Monday morning, 9 a.m., the day of poetic justice. I hadn't slept, unless you count the 42-minute nap I took with my clothes still on and my laptop glowing like a judgmental nightlight. My brain replayed every insult, every smirk, every Elliot, maybe you're not leadership material, Victor had ever dropped. Well, good news, Vic. Turns out I was landlord material. Patricia met me in the lobby of Harlow Dynamics, looking like she'd just walked out of a courtroom-themed perfume commercial. Black suit, red lipstick, tablet in hand, eyes sharp enough to slice through marble. You ready to rattle the cage? She asked. I've been rattling it in my head all night, I said. Walter arrived seconds later, wearing a tweed jacket that smelled faintly of mothballs and revenge. He patted my shoulder. Remember, son, power is best served calmly. Don't worry, I said. I'll be calm. My voice might tremble, but that's just excitement mixed with caffeine toxicity. The receptionist at Harlow's front desk recognized me. Her name was Stacy, mid-20s, permanently cheerful, the kind of person who called corporate memos inspirational. Her smile froze when she saw me. Mr. Grant, back like a bad stock option, I said. Are you here for an interview? Sort of, I said. Think of it as an exit interview, but for your boss. Patricia handed her a letter. Please deliver this to Mr. Harlow immediately. The embossed header read, Notice of Property Ownership Transfer and Lease Violation. The moment Stacy read the words, her eyes widened like she'd just seen a ghost hand in her paycheck. She stammered something about checking availability and fled. 10 minutes later, we were escorted into the same boardroom where I'd once been fired. Same cold air conditioning, same overpriced artwork, same table that probably cost more than my car. The irony was almost cinematic. Victor entered, flanked by 2 lawyers and Monica, because of course she was there. She looked immaculate, like betrayal wrapped in silk. The diamond on her finger could have signaled ships. She blinked when she saw me. Elliot, she said softly, like she couldn't believe the peasant had breached the castle gates. Surprise, I said. Hope you kept the receipts for that ring. Victor ignored the jab and went straight for his power move, buttoning his suit jacket and smiling like a televangelist. Elliot, he said, I'm told you have some papers? Patricia stood before I could open my mouth. Indeed. My client, Mr. Grant, is now the majority owner of Grant Drummond Developments, which retains title to the land on which this headquarters sits. You're in violation of multiple lease clauses, including the morality clause triggered by the recent fraud investigation. The color drained from his face. That's absurd. It's notarized, she said smoothly. Absurdity doesn't hold up in court. One of his lawyers started flipping through the documents like a magician looking for a trick that wasn't there. There must be a mistake. There's not, Patricia cut in. This building, along with approximately 34 properties in the Westwood Tech Corridor, sits on Mr. Grant's holdings. He is, as of this morning, your landlord. You could have bottled the silence and sold it as luxury tension. Victor's jaw twitched. This is ridiculous, he said, turning to me. You're a pizza delivery guy. I corrected. Now I deliver eviction notices. They come with free irony. Walter chuckled quietly, like a man watching a long overdue movie ending. Victor tried to recover his swagger. Fine. What do you want? Oh, nothing big, I said. Just options. Option 1. Vacate in 30 days. Option 2. Clear my name. Pay me $30 million in damages and triple your rent. Monica gasped. Triple? Yeah, I said, smiling. I figured since you two like things big, why not start there? Victor leaned forward, voice cold. You're bluffing. Patricia slid another document across the table, an official court filing. Already filed with the county clerk. The lawyers whispered furiously. One actually Googled my name on his phone, then froze when he saw the headlines Patricia's PR team had already prepped. Disgraced employee revealed as majority owner in billion-dollar real estate shocker. Victor's mouth opened and closed like a malfunctioning robot. This is blackmail. No, I said. Blackmail's illegal. This is business. Monica spoke up, her voice trembling. Elliot, please, can't we talk privately? Sure, I said. But I charge consulting fees now. Even Patricia cracked a smile. Victor finally snapped. You think you can ruin me? You? You wouldn't even have this without me. I leaned back, savoring every second. That's funny, Victor. Because technically, you work for me now. Which means your paycheck depends on whether I decide to keep your company on my land. So maybe drop the attitude before your desk becomes a parking space. Walter almost applauded. I think even the marble table flinched from the impact of karma. Patricia stood. We'll give you 72 hours to respond to the terms. After that, the eviction process begins. Victor didn't speak. Monica just stared at me, eyes glistening, part guilt, part panic, part I just lost my designer life. I gave her a polite nod. Small world, huh? Smaller wallet. As we left the room, the entire building felt different. Every step down the hallway was like shedding years of humiliation. People peeked from cubicles, whispering. Some recognized me. Others just sensed the power shift. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being escorted out. Down in the lobby, Walter grinned like a proud grandfather. You handled that beautifully. Thanks, I said. It's amazing what confidence you get when karma finally remembers your address. Patricia smiled, typing something on her phone. Expect the media to call by tomorrow. I leaked just enough to make Harlow's PR team sweat through their suits. Remind me to never get on your bad side, I said. Oh, you couldn't afford to, she replied dryly. We stopped by a cafe on the way back to Walter's mansion. I ordered the most expensive coffee on the menu just because I could. It tasted like vengeance and caramel. Walter raised his cup. To justice. To my dad, I said. And to not fainting on any more Persian rugs. Patricia added. And to paperwork. Humanity's most underrated weapon. That night, back home, I poured a drink and scrolled through social media. Sure enough, Harlow Dynamics was trending. The hashtags were poetry. Hashtag landlord revenge. Hashtag pizza to power. Hashtag corporate karma. One tweet read, imagine firing your employee only to find out he owns your building. That's the sequel to The Office we deserve. I laughed until I cried. Then came the emails, reporters, former coworkers, old college friends suddenly remembering I existed. One from Carl stood out. You absolute legend. Drinks on me. But the best message was from an address labeled unknown. You won this round. But it's not over. No signature, but I didn't need one. Victor. The man couldn't handle losing. Not to me, not to anyone. I stared at the screen and whispered, oh, buddy, you have no idea how many rounds I've got left. 2 days later, Patricia called. He's lawyering up. Filed a counterclaim saying the documents are fraudulent. I groaned. He's really committed to being the villain, huh? She smirked over the phone. Good. That makes the ending more satisfying. Court filings flew, subpoenas followed, and by Friday, the media circus had its ringmaster. Walter's lawyer buddies volunteered statements verifying every record. Harlow's stock dipped faster than my mood at a family reunion. Monica filed for divorce a week later. Apparently, yachts and golden handcuffs lose their sparkle when the bills start coming in. She texted me one night. Elliot, we can talk, right? I replied with a photo of a pizza box labeled served cold. No words, just vibes. A month later, Harlow Dynamics settled. They cleared my name publicly, paid $30 million in restitution, and agreed to triple their rent under a new 20-year lease. The same reporters who once ran, disgraced manager fired for fraud, now printed, unlikely billionaire redeems father's legacy. Talk about a glow-up. Walter hosted a dinner to celebrate. He toasted me like a war hero. "To Elliot Grant," he said, "the man who proved revenge tastes better with a side of justice." Patricia raised her glass. "And who reminded the world, never underestimate the pizza guy." I laughed, shaking my head. "Can we put that on my business cards?" That night, I sat outside Walter's mansion, staring at the stars. My father's name was everywhere now, restored, respected, remembered. I felt something shift inside me. For the first time in decades, I wasn't angry. I was proud. And when my phone buzzed again, another unknown message, probably Victor still licking his wounds. I didn't even open it. I just smiled and turned the screen face down. Some stories don't need sequels. Because this was no longer about revenge. It was about reclaiming what was mine. Still, the next morning, when Patricia called and said, "So, what's next for you, Mr. Grant?" I couldn't help but grin. "Simple," I said. "We build something better. Some meetings are scheduled with Outlook invites and complimentary muffins. Others, they're scheduled by fate and delivered with a vengeance. This one, oh, this was the kind where the air itself charges a late fee for breathing." It was a Tuesday, the universal day of corporate suffering. The kind of morning that smelled like burnt coffee and unspoken hostility. I was standing in front of the mirror in my apartment, tying a tie that had seen better days and better jobs. My reflection stared back like, "You sure you want to do this, buddy?" "Yep," I told the mirror. "Today, I'm cashing in on Karma's layaway plan." I threw on my only revenge suit, a dark gray number that still had traces of marinara on the cuff from my delivery days, and walked out feeling like a budget James Bond whose mission was to reclaim his dignity. By 8:45 a.m., I was pulling into the parking lot of Harlow Dynamics, the same building where I'd been fired, humiliated, and slandered. Except now, I wasn't just walking into their office. I was walking into my property. The irony was so delicious it could have been served medium rare. Patricia was waiting for me at the entrance, crisp and lethal in navy blue. She had that, "I dare someone to interrupt me," aura that made interns step out of her way like pigeons avoiding traffic. "You ready?" she asked, sliding a folder into my hand. "Born ready," I said, even though my heart was tap dancing like it had a caffeine addiction. Walter arrived right on cue, cane in one hand, mischief in the other. "If you start sweating, son," he whispered, "just remember, you own the air they're breathing." We entered the lobby. Same scent of overpriced sanitizer and artificial confidence. The receptionist, Stacy, looked up from her computer, saw me, and blinked like she was seeing a ghost her NDA couldn't protect her from. "Mr. Grant," she squeaked. "Still me," I said. "Different paycheck." She fumbled with her headset. Mr. Harlow isn't expecting." Patricia leaned in, voice cool and professional. "He doesn't have to expect his landlord." We walked past her before she could summon corporate security. It felt poetic. The last time I'd walked these halls, I'd been escorted out like a thief. Today, I strutted in like the plot twist. The boardroom was exactly as I remembered it. Long table, ridiculous chandelier, and chairs that probably cost more than my car's resale value. I could practically hear the ghost of my old self whisper, "Don't mess this up." Victor Harlow was already there, surrounded by his entourage of legal yes-men. He looked the same. Flawless suit, smirk calibrated to punchable, and that smug aura of someone who thought morality was optional if your cologne was expensive enough. He glanced up, and for the first time, the smirk faltered. Well, he said, feigning calm. "If it isn't the pizza boy landlord." "Good to see you too, Victor," I said, taking my seat at the head of his table. Correction, my table. Monica was there too, sitting beside him like regret in heels. She looked good, annoyingly good, but her eyes told a different story. They said, "I bet you blocked my number." And I had. Twice. Victor leaned back. "So what's this about, Elliot? Another publicity stunt? The press loves your little rags to riches sob story." Patricia placed a stack of documents in front of him like she was setting down commandments. "It's about finalizing new lease terms and resolving outstanding debts. As you know, Harlow Dynamics occupies property under Mr. Grant's ownership." He gave a lazy laugh. "Ownership. Cute word. I suppose you'll be raising rent." "Triple," Patricia said. "Retroactive." The smirk died right there. Monica whispered something in his ear, probably, "Don't yell in front of the help," But Victor ignored her. He pointed at me. You think this makes you powerful, Elliot? You're playing in leagues you don't understand. I leaned forward, smiling. You're right. I used to play in the minor leagues, working for guys like you. Now I own the stadium. Walter coughed to hide a laugh, but not well. Victor slammed a hand on the table. You can't evict a billion-dollar company overnight. Patricia's eyebrow arched. Legally, we can. Morally, we're overqualified. The silence that followed could have cured hiccups. Finally, I pushed the papers toward him. Option 1. You pay what's owed, clear my name publicly, and sign a new 20-year lease at fair, very fair, terms. Option 2. I evict you. Turn this building into a museum called How to Lose Everything. I'll even leave your office intact for nostalgia. Victor's lawyers scrambled, flipping through the pages like they could find a loophole made of hope. Monica finally spoke, voice soft but edged. Elliot, please. Be reasonable. Reasonable, I said. You helped ruin my career and watched me drown while you sipped champagne on his yacht. I'd say I've been more than reasonable. This is me being efficient. She flinched. Good. Victor forced a chuckle. You don't scare me. Good, I said. Then you won't mind the cameras. His eyes darted toward the glass walls where, sure enough, a few reporters had gathered, thanks to Patricia's anonymous tip. Walter grinned. Smile, Vic. You're trending again. Victor cursed under his breath, turning to his team. Fine. We'll pay. But I'll fight you on every clause. Patricia smiled sweetly. That's adorable. But I already filed the new lease with the county. You're technically a tenant as of 2 hours ago. He blinked. You can't. Oh, I did, she said. And you'll find your new monthly rent conveniently triples on the 1st. I leaned back, savoring the moment. Don't worry, Vic. It's just business. Like you always said. The look on his face was worth every unpaid bill I'd ever had. Every sleepless night. Every insult. He looked small. Like the universe had finally returned his missed calls. When we left the building, Walter clapped me on the back. Your father would be proud, you know. I hope so, I said. Though he'd probably say I took too long. Patricia grinned. That went better than expected. I didn't faint, I said. So yeah, high score. We stopped by a diner afterward, Walter's idea. Nothing humbles a man like pancakes, he said. The waitress brought us coffee and asked, So what brings you all here? Patricia answered without missing a beat. We just evicted a billionaire. The waitress laughed like she thought it was a joke. Nice one. Walter raised his cup. To Elliot Grant, the only man I know who delivers karma better than pizza. We all laughed. For the first time in forever, I felt light. The kind of light you only feel when life finally lets you win a round. But I wasn't naive. Victor wasn't the kind of man to lick his wounds quietly. He'd fight, scheme, claw his way back somehow. The thing is, I wasn't that same desperate employee anymore. I had lawyers, power, and something Victor never understood, humility. That night, I went home and poured myself a drink. Whiskey. Neat. I turned on the TV, and there it was. Harlow Dynamics CEO faces lease scandal. Fired employee now majority landowner. The anchor smiled like she couldn't believe it either. In a shocking twist, former logistics manager Elliot Grant has become the legal landlord of Harlow Dynamics headquarters. I took a sip and toasted the screen. To poetic justice, you beautiful beast. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You win this time. I smiled. Yeah, I muttered. And next time, I'll charge late fees. For a moment, I thought about Monica. The part of me that still remembered the good years almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered her at the gala, laughing, glass raised, saying, small world. Now I wanted to text her back, smaller paycheck. Instead, I finished my drink and stared at the city skyline outside my window. Lights twinkled across buildings my father had helped create, structures that now bore my name. Somewhere out there, Victor was probably smashing a crystal tumbler against a marble wall, realizing he couldn't bully his way out of a deed. I smiled, leaning back. Sleep tight, Victor. Rent's due on Monday. The next morning, I woke up to a phone full of congratulations. Journalists wanted interviews. Old co-workers wanted forgiveness, and my ex-boss wanted a lawyer with superpowers. I sent Patricia a simple text. Next move? Her reply came instantly. We build something better. With your father's name on it this time. That hit deep. I looked at the folder on my desk, Grant Drummond Developments. My father's legacy. My second chance. Yeah, Revenge had been sweet. But legacy? That was eternal. And for the first time in a long, ridiculous, rain-soaked, pizza-scented life, I finally felt like I was becoming somebody. You ever watch a tower crumble in slow motion? That's what it looked like, not the building, but Victor Harlow. The man who once fired me with a smirk was now publicly imploding one headline at a time, and honestly, I'd have bought popcorn if it wouldn't have made me look petty. Scratch that, I did buy popcorn. Buttered. Large. 3 days after our little meeting of the century, the news cycle had gone full telenovela. Corporate landlord revealed as former employee. CEO faces ethical probe. Harlow dynamics built on shaky ground. Reporters couldn't get enough. There were graphics, charts, even a dramatic montage set to piano music. Somewhere out there, a journalist was earning a Pulitzer for describing me as the pizza man who delivered karma. Meanwhile, Victor's empire was melting faster than an ice cube in a Vegas sauna. Stock prices plunged, sponsors vanished, and investors started doing that polite panic where they restructure their portfolios, which is billionaire speak for we're out. But here's the thing about powerful men, they don't go quietly. They go like malfunctioning fireworks, loud, messy, and guaranteed to hit themselves in the face. Patricia called me that Friday morning, her voice calm, but buzzing with the kind of excitement lawyers get when the opposing side self-destructs. He's suing you for defamation, she said, sipping coffee like it was a plot twist she'd already anticipated. Of course he is, I said. Victor wouldn't sleep well unless he was the victim of his own downfall. It won't hold, she said. We've got signed leases, notarized filings, and a morality clause longer than his ego. Good, I said, because my next move involves fireworks. Walter, who'd become my unofficial hype man, called an hour later. Saw the news, son. He's panicking. They're calling emergency board meetings. I bet he's making PowerPoints about resilience right now, I said. Walter chuckled. Let the man flail. You don't wrestle a drowning snake. You let the water do its work. Words to live by. By noon, Victor's PR team had switched strategies from denial to damage control. He went on a business podcast, you know the type. Dramatic lighting, fake empathy, and hosts who say things like, let's unpack that. Victor sat there in his designer suit, looking like a malfunctioning Ken doll, and said, I'm the target of an orchestrated smear campaign by individuals exploiting legal loopholes. Translation: I messed up, but I'd rather sound like a victim. Patricia texted me a clip. Do not respond publicly, she warned. Yet, she said. The woman knew me too well. That night, I met Walter and Patricia at his mansion, which I was starting to call Mission Control. Walter poured us drinks. Tomorrow, we take him down properly, Patricia said, sliding a thick binder across the table. His financials, his shell companies, his offshore accounts. It's all here. I blinked. How the hell did you get this? She smirked. Let's just say his accountant isn't very good at passwords. Remind me to never share a Netflix login with you, I said. We spent hours going over everything. Turns out Victor had been playing Monopoly with real money, shifting assets, hiding debts, the works. But karma doesn't do tax shelters. 2 days later, we filed suit for breach of lease, unpaid rent, and contract fraud. Within 24 hours, every financial network had the story. Reporters swarmed Harlow HQ like vultures wearing press badges. By Wednesday, his board had had enough. Anonymous sources leaked recordings of him shouting at staff, smashing a vase, rumored to be worth $12,000, and calling investors cowards. The board voted to remove him as CEO in a closed session. Irreconcilable leadership differences, they called it. That's corporate for we've seen enough. When the news broke, I was in my kitchen reheating leftover lasagna and watching the live stream on my phone. The ticker scrolled. Victor Harlow removed as CEO. I raised my fork. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you reheat justice. My phone buzzed seconds later. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Elliot, a hoarse voice said. It was Victor. Victor, I said, savoring it. Shouldn't you be drafting your farewell email? You think you've won, he rasped. You have no idea how this world works. Oh, I know exactly how it works, I said. You build a throne out of lies and rent it from the guy you fired. He didn't respond for a long moment. Then, enjoy your 15 minutes. Click. I stared at the phone, then burst out laughing. Buddy, I've been waiting 50 years for this 15 minutes. The next morning, the world woke up to a fresh scandal. Harlow Dynamics under SEC investigation. Patricia called, trying not to sound too gleeful. They're uncovering years of misreporting. It's a landslide. Patricia, I said, I'd buy you a yacht right now if it wouldn't make me look exactly like him. Walter, ever the philosopher, just said, every giant eventually trips over their own shadow. Victor went full bunker mode. Lawyers quit. Staff resigned. Monica filed for divorce within a week. Apparently, true love can't survive foreclosure. Her public statement was peak irony. I'm choosing peace and personal growth. Translation: I'm choosing not to be subpoenaed. She texted me once during the chaos. Can we talk? I didn't know it would go this far. I replied with a picture of a pizza box and a note scribbled inside. Some deliveries take a while. She didn't reply. I hope she framed it. As the storm around Harlow Dynamics grew, something strange happened. People started reaching out, thanking me. Former employees, small contractors, even a janitor who'd been underpaid for years. You did what we all wanted to, one message said. You reminded them we're not disposable. That one hit hard. Because for the first time in decades, I realized this wasn't just revenge. It was redemption. Not just mine, but my dad's too. I decided to take Walter's advice and turn victory into legacy. We called a press conference at City Hall, not the dramatic kind with flashing cameras and crying apologies, but one with purpose. Patricia stood beside me, Walter sat proudly in the front row, and I announced the creation of the Jacob Grant Foundation. 30 years ago, my father built this city's foundations, literally. He believed that land shouldn't just be owned, it should lift people. Today, we're honoring that belief. Half of our holdings will fund affordable housing and community redevelopment. The crowd applauded. Reporters shouted questions. One asked, "Is this your way of distancing yourself from Harlow's scandal?" I smiled. No, it's my way of fixing what people like him broke. That quote made the front page the next morning. My dad's photo ran beside mine under the headline, "Son of Forgotten Builder Rewrites His Father's Legacy." Walter cried when he saw it. Not like a soap opera cry, just quiet, proud tears. "You did it, kid," he said. "You turned ashes into architecture." That night, we sat on his porch, drinking tea and whiskey respectively, watching the sun dip behind the skyline my dad had once helped design. "Funny thing," I said, "the same rain that ruined my deliveries built this city." Walter chuckled. "That's poetry, son. Don't get used to it," I said. "I'm still petty." Patricia joined us later, phone in hand. "Final update," she said. "The SEC froze Victor's accounts. He's finished." I leaned back. "So the Titan falls." She smirked. "And the pizza guy inherits the earth." We all laughed, and for the first time in years, I wasn't laughing to hide pain. I was laughing because it was finally over. Victor's face appeared on the news a week later. Paparazzi catching him leaving some country club with sunglasses, beard, and no entourage. The caption read, "Former CEO in legal limbo." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I thought about calling him, just to say something profound like, "How's the view from rock bottom?" But then I remembered how he once said, "You'll never be somebody." So instead, I whispered to the TV, "I am now." Walter passed peacefully not long after. He left me a note, written in that perfect old man cursive. "We built things that lasted, Elliot. Keep building." And I have. The foundation grew. My daughter finished nursing school debt-free. My son left his corporate law job to work with Patricia, helping people who'd been screwed over like I was. We turned empty buildings into homes, lawsuits into lifelines, and karma into a business plan. Sometimes I still drive past Harlow's old office. My name's on the lease now, Grant Holdings. And even though Victor's long gone, I can still feel his ghost pacing the halls, furious that the man he underestimated owns his kingdom. I roll down the window, take a deep breath, and let that satisfaction settle. Because revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a quiet man in a car, smiling at the skyline, whispering, "Rent's due." And somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls like applause. The funny thing about revenge is that once the smoke clears and your enemies are publicly roasted on all sides, you're left staring at yourself, wondering, now what? Turns out, there's no YouTube tutorial for post-victory existential crisis. After the fall of Harlow Dynamics, my life got weirdly quiet. No reporters camped outside. No angry texts from Victor. I assume he traded his phone for bail money. No ex-wife popping up to reconnect spiritually. It was just silence. The good kind. The kind that tastes like peace with a hint of disbelief. I'd wake up every morning, pour my coffee into an actual mug instead of a styrofoam cup, sit on my balcony, and think, so this is what winning feels like. Spoiler, it feels amazing. And also terrifying. Because after years of fighting to prove something, you almost forget how to just live. Walter's mansion had become the temporary headquarters for the Jacob Grant Foundation, named after my dad, the man who unknowingly left me both a fortune and a blueprint for decency. Patricia had turned the library into a war room of philanthropy, whiteboards, coffee cups, legal pads, and more ambition than Congress could handle. "You're going to have to start hiring staff," she said one morning, flipping through papers like she was rearranging destiny. "You can't run a multi-million-dollar foundation with just me, an intern, and your moral support." "I'm great moral support," I said. "I bring snacks." She glared over her glasses. "Elliot, serious question. What do you want this foundation to be?" That stopped me. For months, everything had been about getting even. Now it was about getting it right. "I want it to be what my dad would have built," I said. "Not just buildings. Futures. The kind that don't collapse when life sucker punches you." Patricia actually smiled. "That's the best mission statement I've heard all year." The first big project we tackled was converting part of the Westwood Tech Corridor into affordable housing. Half the city's developers thought I'd lost my mind. "You could build luxury condos," one investor told me. "You'd double your return." "Yeah," I said, "but I'd lose my soul. And my dad already paid for that land once. I'm just spending it the right way." We partnered with architects, nonprofits, and even Luigi. Yes, that Luigi. When he found out I was building apartments, he marched into the office with a pizza box and said, "You need food program. I'm your guy. Call it Slices of Hope." I laughed. "Luigi, that sounds like a Hallmark movie." He grinned. "Exactly. Hallmark movies make people cry. Crying people donate money." I couldn't argue with that logic. Within 6 months, the Grant Homes initiative broke ground. Hundreds of units designed to be eco-friendly, affordable, and actually livable. Not those shoebox apartments where you can brush your teeth while cooking ramen. Real homes, with dignity baked into the blueprints. The media went wild again. From fired employee to city builder. The Pizza King of philanthropy. My favorite headline, though, came from a local blogger who wrote, "Man wins at life, still tips generously." I printed that one and framed it in the office. Walter lived long enough to see the foundation's first site break ground. He stood there with a hard hat that looked slightly too big for him and said, "Your father would have loved this." He believed success wasn't measured by height, but by how many people you lifted with you. "Then we're doing it right," I said. He nodded, smiling. "Promise me one thing, Elliot. Don't let success make you forget struggle. People who forget struggle start hiring publicists to remember it for them." I laughed, but that line stuck with me. When Walter passed peacefully a few months later, he left me a handwritten note. No legal jargon, no instructions, just, "You turned ashes into architecture." I read it 100 times. Still do. After his funeral, I went back to the site alone. The wind was cold, the air thick with the smell of wet soil and new beginnings. I stood there in my coat, watching construction crews move like ants building something meaningful. "This one's for you, Dad," I whispered. And maybe it was my imagination, or maybe fate was just showing off, but I swear I heard the faintest echo of his voice in the wind. "Took you long enough, kid." That night, I sat with Patricia and my 2 kids, Clara, now a registered nurse, and Ben, who'd just quit his corporate law job to join us at the foundation. "You sure you want to do this?" I asked him. "I can't pay you what you made at that firm." He shrugged. "Yeah, but I'll actually sleep at night." Clara smirked. "And I'll get to boss you both around. It's a win-win." I looked at them, really looked, and realized something wild. For the first time in decades, my family wasn't something I was fixing. It was something I was building. Over dinner, Patricia raised a glass. "To the Grant family. Proof that karma has a construction permit." We all laughed. Still, the ghosts of the past have a habit of showing up uninvited. One morning, as I was walking out of a meeting, a familiar voice stopped me. "Elliot." I turned. "Monica." She looked human. Not the polished, untouchable goddess I'd once married, but softer, tired, real. She held a folder, but her eyes were the apology. I heard about the foundation, she said. You're doing good things. Yeah, I said cautiously. Took me long enough. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For all of it. I studied her face. The old anger didn't flare up. The fire had burned out, and what was left was peace, or maybe indifference. Thanks, I said finally. But you don't owe me that anymore. We're both different people now. She nodded, a small, sad smile. I know. I'm glad you became who you were meant to be. I almost said, I always was. You just didn't stick around long enough to see it. But I let it go. Growth, right? We shook hands. A quiet truce between two people who'd survived the worst versions of each other. Later, I told Patricia about it. She shrugged. Closure looks good on you. I think that's called wrinkles, I said. She laughed. Same thing. Months passed. The foundation expanded into new cities. We built shelters, community centers, even launched a scholarship for kids who wanted to study construction and urban planning. Build the builders, I called it. Patricia said that sounded corny. Then we printed it on a billboard. Every now and then, someone would stop me on the street and say, Hey, you're that guy. The one who took down Harlow. I'd smile and shake their hand, but inside, I'd think, no, I'm the guy who built what came after. Because here's the truth they don't tell you in revenge movies. The real victory isn't when they fall. It's when you rise so high you stop looking down. And maybe that's why I still deliver pizzas for Luigi every now and then on Fridays. Yeah, you read that right. Billionaire me still hops in Betsy. Well, her electric replacement, Betsy 2.0, and delivers pies around the old neighborhoods. Luigi says it keeps me connected to the dough, literally and spiritually. He's not wrong. There's something grounding about it. The smell of garlic. The late-night chatter. The reminder that before all the zeros in my bank account, I was just a guy trying to earn gas money. One night, I was delivering to a small duplex on Elm Street. A kid answered the door, 16, maybe 17. He looked tired but hopeful. I knew that look. Hey, Mr. Grant, he said, eyes wide. My mom says you're the guy who owns, like, half the city now. Only the parts with decent pizza, I said, handing him the box. He grinned. I want to be like you someday. I smiled. No, kid. Be better. And tip your delivery guys. That's how karma starts. He laughed, handed me a $5, and ran inside. Driving away, I felt that warmth again. The one that says maybe life really does balance out if you survive long enough to see it. Back home, I poured a Diet Coke, sat on my porch, and looked at the skyline. My skyline. The city my father dreamed of, the one Walter fought to preserve, the one Patricia helped me rebuild. And somewhere between the glow of the streetlights and the hum of distant traffic, I realized I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I was building a legacy. And for a man who once measured success in tips and overtime pay, that was everything. I raised my can to the stars. Here's to you, Dad. You built the ground. I just made sure it stayed standing. The wind rustled the trees like applause, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a man rebuilding from nothing. I felt like a man building something better, something that would last long after the noise faded. Because the best revenge isn't payback. It's permanence. 1 year later, I stood in my father's old office, now mine, watching sunlight spill through the same windows he once stared out of. The room smelled faintly of coffee, paper, and redemption. A photograph sat on the desk. Dad and Walter, 1982, two young men with rolled sleeves and ridiculous optimism. I traced my fingers over the frame and whispered, we did it. Funny how success sneaks up on you. It doesn't feel like fireworks or fanfare. It feels like quiet mornings, fresh purpose, and a phone that finally rings for the right reasons. My calendar was filled with meetings that didn't involve survival, board members, city planners, foundation leaders. People actually wanted my advice. Me, the guy who once got yelled at for not delivering extra ranch dressing. That morning, Patricia leaned in the doorway with a smirk. Press wants you for a follow-up interview. They're calling you the pizza landlord of the people. I groaned. That sounds like a mascot with gout. She laughed. Could be worse. They could have called you Revenge Daddy. I shuddered. Patricia, please. It's too early for therapy. She walked in, setting down a file. Before your ego inflates, we got final reports from the first Grant Homes complex. 92 families moved in last week. One single mother told the media her kid has his own bed for the first time in 3 years. That one hit deep. I nodded slowly. That's it, huh? That's what being somebody actually looks like. Exactly, she said. Turns out building hope pays better than vengeance. Not as flashy, though, I said. No one makes movies about zoning permits. She smirked. Maybe they will now. Later that day, I visited the site myself. No cameras, no PR team, just me. The smell of new paint and cut grass filled the air. Kids laughed in the courtyard, riding bikes and chasing each other like the world hadn't told them no yet. I met a woman named Rosa, holding her baby girl on the balcony. You're Mr. Grant? She asked, eyes wide. Depends who's asking, I said. My landlord doesn't usually shake hands, she said, smiling. Yeah, well, I replied. Your landlord used to deliver pizzas. She laughed. That's why the world still needs you. Driving back, I stopped at Luigi's Pizza, because some traditions don't retire, they just age like fine cheese. Luigi saw me walk in and shouted, Mr. Big Shot, you still remember us little people. Little people? I said, Luigi, you charge $20 for a large pepperoni. He grinned. Inflation and humility tax. I sat at the counter, ordered a slice, and let the noise wash over me. The sizzling ovens, the radio playing 80s hits, the laughter of delivery guys who didn't know they were standing in a place where fate once clocked in. Luigi leaned over. So tell me, boss, you happy? I thought about it. Yeah, I said. For the first time in my life, I'm not chasing anything. I'm just standing still, and it feels good. He nodded like a philosopher with sauce on his apron. Standing still is how you know you made it. When I got home that evening, the house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels earned. On my phone was a message from Monica. Just one image, me handing apartment keys to a young mother, a photo she must have seen online. Her text read only, I'm proud of you. I didn't reply, not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. Some conversations end better in silence. Instead, I sent the photo to Patricia with the caption, this is what being somebody looks like. She sent back a thumbs-up emoji and a wine glass. Classic Patricia. That night, I found another note in Walter's handwriting tucked between old papers. You turned your father's dirt into a garden. Don't forget to keep planting. I poured a drink, stepped out to the balcony, and looked over the city skyline glowing like a promise finally kept. Down below, a delivery car rolled past. Same pizza logo, same headlights cutting through the dark. I smiled. Life had a weird sense of humor. Sometimes you start as the delivery guy, and one day you realize you've been delivering something else entirely. Hope, justice, second chances. I raised my glass to the night. To you, Dad. To Walter. And to anyone still stuck in the storm, hang in there. The pizza's on its way. And with that, I laughed, soft, real, unguarded. Because for the first time in 50 years, I wasn't the joke. I was the punchline that landed. That's what being somebody looks like.